so you were just talking about Skrillex and screwing you over with money and stuff. And obviously, that didn't happen. But I did want to talk about a story that I did my research on and found. And you can stop me if you have to.
Go
I
ahead.
don't know how much illegally you can talk about this. But what was your relationship with Kilobyte?
Kilobyte. Okay, that was insane, that whole thing. I mean, right now my relationship with them is like pretty much non-existent. It's kind of just cut off. But yeah, long story short, for anyone on the podcast that doesn't know, I released my song Comet with Kilobyte Media, which was at the time seemed like a legitimate label. And the song did wildly well in the first like month or two. I think it pushed in the first 2 months to like 160,000 streams on Spotify. And for me, that was like unfathomable at the time. Like I was like not getting any numbers on Spotify. SoundCloud is my main hub, and I'd be maybe getting like 30 to 40K on a tune. So when that happened, like it was just this mind-blowing experience. Then I realized that those plays, most of them, a huge majority of them were all fake, were all botted. And eventually that release did go on to become my most successful release. But that was the weird thing about Kilobyte, is how they ran their whole operation was they faked it until they made it. And they would push artists like myself who they believed were making good music and had good branding and good consistency, but like needed the extra push to get big. And they'd fake your stats pretty much until they had a reputable song that they could send to bigger promoters. So inevitably, after like 5 or 6 months of my song being released with them, like these big YouTube promotion channels that were getting like tons of exposure for artists were uploading my song. And it's because Kilobyte would be sending them these email pitches like, hey, I've got this hot new artist who just came out of nowhere and went from, 40 monthly listeners to like 100,000 in the span of like a month. You should definitely be promoting their stuff because it'll help bring traction to your channel. And yeah, he convinced a lot of big people to promote the song, and the song did really well as,
Well, you got some good promotion out of it, even though you got maybe screwed out of royalty. How did the royalty end of it work out?
The royalty end of it, I mean, it never got completely sorted. I think there's some people that are individually trying to fight their own battles to do it. But the owner of Kilobyte, he right now is going through, from what I believe, a lot of his own legal troubles that are aside from Kilobyte Media. So trying to get any of those royalties back is pretty much like an impossible quest unless you're willing to wait a few more years. But now all of the artists, I basically set up this whole like group. I set up multiple groups. There was one on Facebook, there was one on Discord, there was one on Telegram, and talked to every single artist that was on the label individually. And we all created like just a whole list of legal documentation to essentially send to every single DSP and get all of our royalties back. So for anyone that went through that whole process with me, which is probably about like 75% of the artists, we now own 100% of the rights to all of our music again. And some people sort of deferred and did their own thing, but it's a lot to keep track of because there's like a couple hundred artists.
That's nuts, man. What do you think was different about you? Was it just you were the one that found it, or were other people kind of seeing this stuff happening?
Well, at one point I ran my own record label, and it was like a premature thing to do, and I ended up stopping it purely because it was just way too much work for the age that I was at and for the income that I was making off of it. It was going great, but running that record label taught me the whole back end side of how music and promotion and everything works. And we had a marketing manager on our team named Jackson from Florida, and he looked into Kilobyte Media and found that, all their stats, like it looked like a city skyline, like their stat charts. Like it was just like random peaks, and then it would be consistent, and then it would dip back down because like algorithm would see this fake and delete it. It was just insane, like looking at how they ran their whole label. So at that point I was like, okay, it's fake, but am I going to talk about it? Does it matter for me to talk about it? Do I care to even like start this whole problem? And to be honest, we kind of just like, it's not worth the time for me to do this. I'm going to cause a big fuss, and everyone's going to say, oh, look at this guy complaining, or they're going to take my side, and it's just going to cause more problems. But then Kilobyte Media, out of nowhere one day, was, I think they were in the midst of getting caught up by a lot of artists DMing him and being like, yo, like, where the fuck are my royalties? Like, why is my song have all these weird stats? What's going on?
Yeah, where's my money?
I think the pressure just got to him. And one day in particular, he just deleted the entire Kilobyte discography, which included like my song and all of the other couple hundred artists that had released there. Like all their songs were just off Spotify. And for a lot of us, these were our top songs. So when you see it just vanishes off the face of the earth, you notice that. And that was like the big bomb that set everything off. That's where I was like, okay, I have all this information. I have all the stats to back it. I have everything recorded.
Let's do something.
Yeah, I'm going to try and do something with this info finally. And it worked out.
That's crazy. Damn. Wow. So good, kudos to you, man.
Cheers, man.
taking that leap of faith, man. That's
yeah,
crazy.
It was nuts.
And just chasing it, doing the right thing. That's not always the easiest.